competitive market of talent acquisition, I think that the art of attracting and retaining the right candidates can strikingly remind or resemble us of the world of dating. I think that both of these dimensions require a strategic approach to creating lasting impressions and those deep connections. Not that you necessarily have a dating strategy on a PowerPoint, but ask any serial dater and you'll find out that they have their own style and ways to run their dating process. And those of you who have been listening to this podcast longer are familiar with the magnetic employer branding method. I designed that to apply persuasive communication, storytelling, and behavioral science to employer branding for the purpose of convincing and converting your relevant talents internally and externally into committed employees. And this methodology exemplifies how organizations can attract or retain talent in a way that mirrors the steps of forming a romantic relationship, believe me or not, from the first meeting to making this long-term commitment. And don't get me wrong, I am not bringing romantic relationships to the workplace, even if I am married to my colleague. I'm simply using dating and finding your life's partner as the comparable example, framing what building the magnetic employer brand looks like. Hi guys, welcome back to this episode of Building a Modern Employer Brand podcast. In this episode, I'm doing something a little bit off the script and comparing dating to employer branding in a modern way that I have designed. So because I am going in depth in a more difficult topic, I decided to split this episode into 2 episodes, with the other one out already next week as episode 181. So don't forget to come back next week to finalize this one, because we're going to be talking about how dating can be compared to building the magnetic employer brand. I know that this can sound a bit controversial, but trust me, as you listen to this episode and next week's episode, you'll find the logic in this. And if you're like many of our clients, you will laugh because what I explain to you is so true and it makes so much sense. And if anything, this image of dating and employer branding will stick to your mind and you'll remember it forever. I promise you. And if this is your first time listening to this podcast, you are so welcome to join us in exploring the world of modern employer branding. My name is Susanna Rantanen, and as one of the world's leading employer branding experts and influencers, I invite you to this weekly dose of modernized employer branding, education, inspiration to keep you excited about employer branding. And not just that, but also to support your personal development and growth journey as an employer branding professional. And I want to mention that this podcast episode show notes page includes the picture of the candidate journey of the information era framework. This is a core framework in the magnetic employer branding method. And being able to have that visual, it might help you to follow this episode better if you had that in front of you. So you'll find that in the show notes article on modernemployerbrand.com. And this is episode 180. And even better, if you are in a place where you can watch this episode on YouTube, I'll have it up there on the screen as well. So first, I want to show you this candidate journey of the information era. This is a core framework in building the magnetic employer branding method. And this framework pinpoints you the entire journey of a person going from literally having no relationship with your organization, really not caring that much about you, probably not even knowing anything about you, or having completely false or mistaken beliefs about your organization, your company as an employer, and the work community that you guys share there. So these phases kind of start from courting to dating to getting engaged and finally committing to each other contractually. And I've spoken about this framework multiple times. And once, at least episode 6 on this podcast is totally committed or totally focused on this framework. So you may want to check that out. I'll put the link in the show notes page for that. Also, and that there's no video from that early on in my podcast. So that's only in an audio version. I also have an online course that goes through how to use this candidate journey of the information era as a framework for employer branding. So that's also something interesting available at Telemarketing School quite soon. I've taken it off for a bit because I'm revamping Telemarketing School, but it'll be back there soon. Anyway, going back to the candidate journey of the information era, this journey can take weeks, months, even years, and is individual in nature. So it's not about treating a target audience as like a mass. People in your relevant audience find you, become curious about you, interested in you, in their own time, in their own pace. For some, this might take a week. For others, it could take months or years even. So it's a very natural progress. And how I want you to think about the candidate journey of the information era is as a framework that reminds you of employer branding not being a campaign. It's an ongoing communication process with the purpose of creating winning sustainable attention, growing awareness, building that affinity towards your organization as a potential place to work or as an existing place to work, and then converting to whatever employer brand strategic needs your organization has, value needs your organization has. So it's a consistent communication process. You can't just think that people will convert, all the relevant ideal talents will convert unless you've taken your time or their time to, allowing them to go through this journey. And what makes it the journey of the information era is this element that started, is actually before the candidate journey. You can see it's called the winning sustainable attention step. This precedes the actual candidate's journey because they won't start with this journey with your organization if you don't have their attention. And winning their attention once is not enough. So you have to win sustainable attention. And that's often what is harder for organizations. And that's why I created this method, the Magnetic Employer Branding method, because this method has been built in a way that it supports you winning that sustainable attention without having to create these massive campaigns all the time. So once you have won the sustainable attention, those people in your target audience are ready to step on the actual candidate journey with your organization. And by the way, I want to say that even though that I referred to this as a candidate journey, I think the better word could be talent journey for this, because this same structure, same framework works whether you're talking internally to your existing employees or whether you're talking, communicating, marketing externally to your potential future candidates, applicants, candidates, employees, your prospects. Now, what is specific about Magnetic Employer Branding method is how to win sustainable attention. A keyword here is that sustainable, as said, because you cannot keep up with enough campaigns of the magnitude that creates enough attention that sustains. It becomes quickly very labor intensive, very expensive, and the phases on the candidate journey go from awareness to affinity and from affinity to conversion. So you need that sustainable attention phase that is kind of like the invitation letter that keeps bringing new people on this journey with you, because not everyone is going to stay on it. Not everyone wants to pursue this journey with your organization longer than just becoming aware of what you represent. And then they might say like, well, this is not my place to work. People also get off this journey either forever or permanently or for some periods of time. If let's say they start a family or they take a year off or they return to college to study, or they take a job elsewhere and they're committed to that organization for years. And then one day they may come back. So you need kind of a constantly getting new people on this journey with your organization, giving them enough reasons to stay on it, and then, consistently move forward on this journey. The awareness and affinity phases I like to explain as phases where you give, yeah, and your audience receives. While the conversion point is what I called your organization's payday, your payday. That is when all that employer branding efforts that you have been putting out there, investing in, allocating your resources for, from the winning the sustainable attention phase to awareness and affinity phases, returns value back to the organization. And oftentimes I see employer branding being either campaigns, which are more recruitment campaigns than employer branding at all, or campaigns without any continuation to the actual candidate's journey. And that conversion deliverable never gets blocked. And with this method, all phases are addressed and made sure that the payoffs will come at the end of the journey from your relevant talents. And as you know, we apply content, conversations, and social media as the primary means to invite your target audience on this journey with your organization. Content and social media marketing, I found quite early on, over 10 years ago, I think it was 2010, 2011, are the only ways still that enable organizations to commit to a systematic, reasonably priced, regular employer branding process with their target audiences. And when your employer branding communication process is based on this method, you have a pretty much foolproof system to grow your organic talent audience, build trust, build those important relationships with them, and confidently lead them to those conversion points, creating that required value for your business and for your organization. And you, my friend, you are able to connect and add elements such as recruitment campaigns, events, employee ambassador programs, and career fairs to this systematic approach, tying up everything nicely and coherently together. Now, let's continue to talk about how this journey connects with dating. Now, I want you to consider a scenario where you meet someone at a social event. You wouldn't immediately just kind of, dive deep into a marriage proposal or share your deepest secrets with the stranger, would you? I mean, I wouldn't. And similarly, the first step in employer branding isn't about bombarding your future candidates and employees with job listings and benefits. That would be a big mistake. Also, you don't want to be that jerk at a party who approaches everyone with the hopes of, going home with someone at the end of the evening, talking endlessly about themselves and bragging about their achievements in totally false beliefs that behavior like that is anyway inviting. We all know how off-putting that can be. No one wants to be that desperate last attempt of the evening. No one wants to talk to a stranger who's only interested in themselves and their gains. And I find it inconceivable how common this is in marketing to act like a jerk like that. What this looks like in marketing is that we only show up when we need something. When we need something from our audiences, be it candidates for our recruitment processes or customers to buy our products. And the rest of the time, we're just silent. We only pop up when we have a request from them. You can imagine like mushrooms, popping up in the rain. You don't want to be an organization like that. You don't want to be an employer like that or a business like that only pops like a mushroom in the rain when we need something. And our message is never nothing else but promotional, bragging about how great our product is or how great our workplace is, how amazing we are and what all we have achieved. That is equivalent to that jerk at a party or a nightclub. Always remember that. You don't want to be like that. Now that works equally well on strangers than if you were approached by a jerk like that at the bar just before closing time. That's what I want to emphasize here. But this is also easy to change. I mean, it all starts with changing your perception on what employer branding is, or what meeting total strangers, approaching total strangers at a party or an event or, cocktail party, dinner party, whatever it is. I've said many times that employer branding is not a recruitment campaign. And I have to emphasize that it's not a campaign of any kind. It is an invitation to this continuous conversation that builds trust, demand, excitement, and that affinity, and leads into conviction, conversion, and an exchange of value for both parties. Okay, let's talk about the art of the first conversation. I want to remind you that we are talking about content and social media marketing. I'm not talking about conversations where you have to schedule one-on-one talks or meetings with total strangers. Not at all. All those conversations are simply content, posts, comments on other people's posts. That's what I'm talking about when I use the word conversation. So we use 3 content pillars in the magnetic employer branding method to differentiate the different types of conversations, as in messages, content, used in this journey. And winning sustainable attention in the candidate journey of the information era is eased by this magnetic employer branding method with our science-based approaches such as persuasive communication techniques, storytelling, behavioral science in marketing, and the foundation of the entire method with the role reversal where talent is the hero and the employer wants the position as their trusted guide and advisor. And don't worry, you do not need to know what these are, how to use this until you're ready to learn. All the important basic bits are engraved in this method for you, and just following this method will take you a long way. Now, when this winning sustainable attention is switched on at the background and it's on all the time, acting as that automated sort of invitation process, it starts to literally invite people on this first phase on the candidate journey. And in comparison to dating, this is how your mama raised you to treat and speak to others, how your own manners, respect for others, and caring for your reputation drive your behavior. This is where you switch off the mode of I'm selling. This is where you switch on the mode of wanting to show up as this charismatic, respectful darling of the party and the workplace, okay? So now that you have switched on the sustainable attention mode, you integrate to your best knowledge this is a learning process for you too, unless you work with us and get us as your coaches, collaborators and work buddies. And then we teach you how and make sure that you know how to keep this mode on. But to your best knowledge, if you're not working with us, you integrate these science-based communication skills to all the content and communication you do externally and internally to your talent audience. And I have spoken about these communication skills like a zillion times on this podcast and on my other content on Instagram. So, there's a lot to learn, even if you were not working with us. Anyhow, this is not an overnighter, so we're not looking for a one-night stand in dating language. Think about this as employer brand communication process that you start to execute consistently, and you select your order of priority, how to integrate this method internally and externally to your communication and marketing over time. So you have my permission to plan your approach, decide what you focus on this year or this half of the year or this quarter and what comes after that once you are ready to take on more. So the art of those first conversations is to make sure that these are about the person that you approach. It's never about you, never about what you wish that happens next, never about scoring at the end of the conversation or at the end of the evening. Always remember this. Be polite, be respectful, be courteous, cautious, and be, be how your mama raised you. Talent is the hero. Talent is the hero. You have to remember this role reversal in the magnetic employer branding method. It is so unique to our method. Nobody else is working like this unless they copy us. And I know that because, I've been in this domain for longer than most people in the world. And I've created this method solely, and there's nobody else in the world that is doing like this unless they copy us. The art of those first conversations is about sparking that initial interest through engaging and relevant messages and content. It doesn't have to be a blog post or a video, not even a social media post of your own. It might simply be your comment to somebody else's LinkedIn post who belongs to your target audience, who you want to belong to your target audience. Or even just a comment to a target audience member's comment on a mutual connections LinkedIn post. So it's simple as that. These initial interest messages and conversations or comments, they are specific with intent, but they are general in depth until the other side is ready to take the conversation to the next level with you. Now, simply think about those light conversations with strangers at a cocktail party or a dinner party or at the nightclub. We're talking about intentional small talk to see if you have mutual interests and to leave a good impression of yourself. In employer branding, intentional small talk translates to conversations, social media comments, and either your own content or repurposed or created somebody else's content that you create for your purposes, chosen to be shared with your target audience based on those mutual interests. And these can be 100% value add, such as sharing a thought-provoking article on latest industry trends or sharing your views, experiences, curated news on a topic that translates to values and beliefs of your organization. What is important here is that you are not asking for anything and you're not talking about your company as such. You are simply setting the stage with a topic or a few topics that are important to your organization, that you want your target audience to connect with your organization, and they act as those mutual grounds to see whether the other party picks them up, and then you have something mutual to talk about. And just like at a dinner party or in that bar, you need to show up way more interest in the other person, asking questions, helping them out, complimenting them so that you leave a good impression of yourself and you raise curiosity to catch up again. I know that now you're thinking that this sounds really difficult and time consuming, but trust me, this behavior can be turned into content. So it does not mean that now you have to spend all your time on LinkedIn commenting other people's posts. I'm simply comparing this face to dating or meeting someone for the first time and how this part of employer branding needs to match with the intent of becoming remembered in positive ways afterwards. Being greeted with that warmth the next time you happen to bump into this person and raising that curiosity so that the other person might Google you or find you on social media afterwards. Now, the emotion needs to match, even though the actions may differ. Now, with this, I believe that you understand how wrong it would be to make this first conversation a sales pitch, such as a recruitment advert with lots of requires from the candidate or for the candidate, or where you don't add much of anything that what you're willing to give back and kind of state that your terms and conditions apply in the way that you decide. The end date for the applications is here. I want you to start then. This is what we want. This is the criteria. But then you kind of like, well, let's see what we can offer to you. I think that one of the most difficult things about building a relevant audience in marketing is to find those people that you want in your audience. If you work in talent acquisition or have recently looked for new career opportunities, you know this pain. Where are all these people or all these employers, all these jobs when I need to contact them the most? These initial interactions that win you the sustainable attention and help get these people on your radar on this candidate journey with your organization, these are crucial for setting the tone and establishing that foundation of interest and curiosity, enticing your relevant talents to want to learn more about who you are as an organization. I call this like an organizational personality, organization person. But over time. All right. Next, we want to talk about how you want to start offering more talking points so that you can actually cultivate that possible deeper connection with that person, with those people in your target audience, just like in, getting to know someone. After attracting the attention of the relevant talents, the next step mirrors, I think, progressing past the first date in dating. And this is about nurturing that initial spark into a more deeper, more meaningful exchange. In employer branding, this is where you begin to share more about your organization's mission, values, and culture. But still, you're not promoting your culture. You're not promoting your values. It's just like those are the behavior. Those are the important things that you believe in. Think about these as if you were dating and that's your mission in life. Those are your life goals. Those are your values. That is the way that you want to do things, the way, that you go about your life. But in employer branding context, these are the organization's behavior, values, culture, beliefs, and so on. So you are not selling any of your vacancies at all in employer branding, okay? It's vital to keep that recruitment marketing, that recruiting attempt and intent away from employer branding for the best impact. By the way, here's a little commercial for you. If you don't have resources for keeping employer branding separated, we have a program called Instant Employer Brand Accelerator. I designed this program for in-house talent acquisition who work in organizations where proper employer branding is not possible, or where employer branding is so far away in the organization that it doesn't create much value for your recruitment. In this 12-week online program, you get to revamp your recruitment marketing process with our proprietary IEBA methodology and start accelerating your employer brand each recruitment process by recruitment process. This is the easiest way to get resources for employer branding because this program directly helps your hiring managers, and they're more likely to allocate from their own budgets and resources when they know that it goes directly towards their own success. You can find the link to this program on my LinkedIn profile, highlights, or on my Instagram highlights, and in the show notes for this episode. So, to repeat it, employer branding, this is the step where you begin to grow more awareness. This second conversation, this second meeting, this is about what your brand represents. So in dating, it would be about what you represent, and you want to figure it out whether the other person matches with what you represent. But the focus is not on what we call the functional benefits, such as the pay and the benefits, the career opportunities, vacancies, and other, in this context, superficial information. Just like in dating, you and the other person want to know whether you are aligned with your values and your beliefs and your wishes and your plans for the future. Your content and your conversations create this awareness about your organization's purpose, those missions, value, culture, and the deeper meaning of work in this organization. Now, here you're inviting potential future employees to understand what makes your company truly unique. This phase might involve content that showcases employee testimonials and experiences based on those values and purpose and mission and intent and meaning of work, community involvement, or innovative projects that reflect the company's values, much like discovering whether you have shared interests with your date. This content helps candidates or prospects for the future see the mutual benefits of a potential relationship with your company. And what again is unique to the magnetic employer branding method is how this phase acts as a magnet, pulling people in that connect with your organization's core personality and values. And I like to refer to this as a self-selection stage. Your employer brand communication, all your content, your messages and conversations, when they are based on this method, magnet that is pulling in people who can relate and find those common grounds with your organization and what your organization represents. The awareness phase is where you consistently grow your audience. We call them organic audience, has nothing to do with advertising, but your organic audience because they follow you based on these mutual grounds, based on these shared beliefs and interests, not because you have a vacancy and they need a job. Not all these people will be your ideal employees as your true love today, tomorrow, or in the future, but they are a relevant match, worth building relationships with. Some of them become your friends. Okay, let's talk about affinity. This is the phase where you establish trust and loyalty. Now, have you ever interviewed someone who you knew almost instantly to be golden and someone who was so well matching with your organization that you were scared they would turn you down? When you hire these people, they turn out to be even more than you imagine, becoming your most trusted and your most committed employees who took on greater responsibility, leadership positions. They are the gems of the organization's core. People whose departure was or would be a huge loss to the organization. Now, as we approach this affinity phase, this is where you start to recognize potential for a deeper commitment, as in true love in dating terms. This is where those special people start to show up or become recognized, from your larger organic audience. As mutual understanding obviously deepens in this relationship, partners begin to trust and value each other more significantly. And this obviously doesn't happen overnight. You're likely to have to date someone for a longer period of time before your relationship deepens into this depth. Same thing in magnetic employer branding. In employer branding, once you have built awareness and you've nurtured that interest with that relevant content conversations for long enough, some people in your relevant organic audience are naturally being pulled into this affinity phase. You don't need to do anything about it. Your content does the work. You can, however, speed up this, being very intentional with chosen people in your organic audience that you find likely to enter the affinity zone. Speeding up happens through personal contact, such as simply direct message chats, tagging them to posts that you believe to be valuable for them, connecting them with mutual people, or simply starting to comment on their posts so that they start to pay more attention to you. This can be done directly from the company profile, but then I would say that you should always state your name. First name is enough. Who is the person that they're having these chats with? Or a hiring manager could be the one who's inviting them for a chat for a cup of coffee to get to know them better. Or if you're a recruiter and most likely to be their first person to talk about job opportunities, you might want to be the one who starts to nurture that relationship with these people. This is where engagement becomes more interactive. Oftentimes, you see people initiating more personal contact with your organization. They regularly comment your employer branding or recruitment posts. They connect with you and other people in your organization on social media. You'll notice them resharing your content to their own audiences and speaking positively about your organization. Perhaps you invite these prospects to webinars, to participate in Q&A sessions, invite them to your company after work events to get to know your people better, or simply just engage directly with them on social media platforms. Obviously, you would start to follow them on social media too. This stage is critical for building a community around your employer brand. You want to make prospects feel like they're already part of your team. They're just the external extension to your tribe. They might start advocating for your brand, sharing your content, or participating in discussions, much like somebody who's proudly introducing their new dating partner to friends and family. Not all your future employees need to be your special talents and kind of forever partners. I think this is really important to also remember. Relevance is enough for a wonderful employment relationship and commitment for whatever time that it lasts. And even though those relationships can flourish into true love one day, is very possible, they don't have to. Okay, let's break this convo here and continue next week with the one remaining super important phase of conversions to business and organizational value, and a bonus phase I like to call beyond conversions phase, during which the focus is on nurturing long-term relationships internally and also externally with your relevant and especially ideal target audiences. So that's all, my friend. This is all for this week. As always, I said the show notes article with links to promised resources can be found on this podcast very own website, www.modernemployerbrand.com. Type it all together, /podcast 180, or just go to modernemployerbrand.com, scroll that page a little bit further down, and you can find all the episodes are numbered. If you got excited about this logic, topic, and the candidate journey of the information era and want to understand more about magnetic employer branding on a basic level, I have written this short short ebook. I think it's like 6 or 7 pages for you. It's totally free, and you can download it in exchange of your email and a permission to include you in our Modern Employer Branding email list. I'll put that opt-in link on the show notes page for you. But if you happen to be on LinkedIn right now, you'll find it on the features section on my personal profile. And if you're on Instagram right now, DM me the word ebook, and you'll get an automatic response with the link. So easy. And come back next week for part 2 of this topic of how dating can be compared to building the magnetic employer brand. Thanks for having me. Bye bye. Moi moi.